Hello, me. Welcome to Being God number 7 on the 7th of the 7th, 2026. I'm just going to cover a few topics today, just a couple of little things. Sorry about the light. Again, it's late in the day. It's been a very distracting day. Religion, is it any good? The control perspective, merging divine masculine, divine feminine energy to become the one whole in the moment, and then sovereign knowing, understanding change by being the catalyst. So, religion. Why did religion come about? Because something was needed to answer questions. Son of God, did it appear just as from the sun in the sky? I don't know. But then if we think that that's where the light comes from, which is light creating the illusion. So, if we think about today, because that's where we are, rather than looking at shadows from the past, then we can see that we've got all over the place different religions. Different religions play a part in the majority of people's lives, allegedly. Certainly by family, in the sense of identity. And for me, there's like everything, there's a good and a bad side to everything. Okay, there's a positive and a negative, an up and a down. The plus side is that it gives a notion of creator when we look at text. Don't think of the dogma associated with the text based on the interpretation of those interpreting here. We have to look for individual interpretations. Yeah? And think of what they're saying. Yeah, we've already discussed things like, moving mountains. Well, the mountain is the obstruction in your mind. And you can move it just like that. That's what we're talking about with all the stories. Anyway, so the bigger idea of religion is one of control. And if we did look back and even cast around hours around now, abuse. Control, abuse, just using, it's just rubbish. God is a God of love. How do I know that? Because I'm God. So, religion, is it any good? Yes, in the sense of the faith, the idea of faith, the idea of a God, of a supreme being, in the sense of someone that's doing this, which, although there's a distraction, breaking it up into multiple gods, all sorts of different elements. Ultimately, the deeper we look, we can find references elsewhere as we feel inclined to question, and we can see different representations of form, or perception of form, or perception of creator based on form. Anyway, the point is, ultimately, all religion, anything, remember, false idols. So, if we're looking at Vishnu, which is an elephant, was it? Or was that Ganesh? That's Ganesh, isn't it? Yeah, Ganesh. If we look at Christ or Allah or Buddha, anything, doesn't matter what it is. It's all separate from self. And self is all there is no other self. That's the purpose of these repeat cycles, the big cycles. Yeah? Hey, listen to this. Hey, listen to this. Hey, listen to this. Yeah? So religion is not any good because it forces the separation. Think of the control and the impact and the influence, yeah? The suffering for a belief that's a lie. When I say that there is no, and I reference this because this is mind-body wise, as in this presentation, the perspective was brought up in the Western tradition of Christianity. So it's the idea of the Trinity and God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So to me, the Spirit, if you will, Spirit, if you will, desire, heartfelt desire to move, emotion is creation. Remember, conceive, create, relate. Yeah? All the creation that goes on as we sleep is played out in repeat cycles. Bam, 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 bam. Like a heartbeat, yeah? Yeah? Create, relate. It's all the reactions, isn't it? We relate to it. Yeah? Catalyst, everything. Cause and effect, 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 cause and effect. Anyway, so if you turn your back on your religion, how will you feel? That's your choice. It can be quite shocking, quite daunting. Remember that a lot of people are slaves to their delusion, their misguiding of themselves, because they need to feel as though there is something there that loves them. Yeah, this is that idea of relation and that perception of love, which is born of the separation. Whereas when we know, when we have sovereign knowing of who we are, when we rest in the truth of who we are moment by moment, there's no such longings, because we know. Yeah? That takes us into the control perspective, which is the merging of divine masculine, which is the inner creative perspective, and the divine feminine, which is the external creative expression of energies, yeah? To become the one whole in the moment. So the control perspective, from what I'm trying to convey in this moment, is that there is a level above the ego awareness which is not apparent to those entrenched in ego, and will never be available to those entrenched in ego. This is going to link into this, the sovereign knowing, understanding change, by being the catalyst in the sense of what you are, how you are, yeah, and if you just need to be the witness. The witness in the relation with rain. Oh, this is what it's like to get wet. Oh, when I get wet, this is what it's like to feel cold. Oh, in this body-mind. Depending how fit you are, I suppose, because there's all variations. There's variations in everything. Everyone's perfectly imperfect and unique in their own fantastic ways, all wondrous, all living out their own paths and making their own decisions. From the control perspective, when we get to a level of that, if we think of the nine, we've got animal being animal, animal human, animal being divine. Then we've got human being animal, human being human, human being divine. Then when we come onto the divine areas, we've got divine being human. And this is where we begin to relate more to the idea of whole, based on the depth of the identification of the egoic reference of self, right to understand, body, mind, as opposed to being God. So when I'm God, my perspective moment by moment is God's perspective, as I've said. We can merge moment by moment as we perceive, instead of drawing so much from the sleep cycle, we can intercede in a moment with a divine masculine reference to alter the divine feminine outcome. Yeah? And witness. We witness that this is the creative reference, the witness reference. Okay? And remember, in the same way that when you get to the idea of divine, yeah, and you can, it's your notion of being is wherever you are, which is when you relate to the peace that transcends all understanding, because it is a place of zero disturbance. Yeah. So, to become one whole in the moment, yeah, which is this is how we then begin to change in a loving way. And remember that this idea, it's very similar, obviously, identical almost, in the principle of manifestation. The difference is, where is the seed placed? Where does the change germinate from? Does it germinate from ego? Is there a payoff based on need, reflecting a perception of lack, yeah, which is echoing fear? Or is it born of a divine masculine reference? Yeah, for whatever reason. Anyway, so this also cements further that idea that those that seek perfect peace, those that have this idea of yes, I'm going to do this, and this, especially those that are in strong egoic entrenchment, yeah, through their social or business achievements, their perception of self, maybe in their family dynamic, or in a particularly dominant role, I don't know. Anyway, the point is that all those aspects of egoic reference are going to just fuck you up here. Sovereign knowing, understanding change by being the catalyst, you can see how this is a direct reference to this. And it's the sovereign knowing as God, I am God as all are. It's that sovereign knowing that opens up the possibility of these points of reference to appreciate these new dynamics of awareness. Yeah? So, the sovereign knowing is very, very different if it's born of an egoic reference, because the sovereignty is separation, fear. It's not divine. Well, I think that's it actually, that's all I've got to say. Religion, ultimately, without being disrespectful, it's a crutch based on a notion of loss, lack, emptiness, and unknowing. And this idea, this everything that I've done, everything that I'm doing is all about getting you onto a realization of this opening up of your mind to different perspectives. That's all we're talking about here. Opening up your mind to the reality of different perspectives pertinent to all. Yeah. There's people in the world that are very poor, very wealthy, seem really dumb, seem really smart, seem really unlucky, seem really lucky, seem really magical, seem really unmagical, seem really aware, seem really unaware, seem really in touch, seem really out of touch on the street, you know, seem really capable, seem really incapable, seem well informed, seem misinformed, poorly informed. As one, they're all experienced. As a divine reference, there is no need because of that. Do you understand? You don't need it. I've got it there in that perspective. I don't need that. I've got it there in that perspective. What's new? Well, I'm going to get rid of all this error in my past because that's not me. That's the body mind, born of the influences. Yeah, trying to recreate all the rubbish that's in their head, which I appreciate. Error, no worries. As far as this line is concerned, I'm changing that. Boof. And it changes the way you are with everything and everyone. And that's it, done and dusted then. That's what people come to do in the sense of this moment collectively. It's one where we engage, and as we engage, we increase momentum. If there's any fear born within yourself of the notion of that momentum driving extreme change in the sense of awareness and reality, but very little change in the sense of daily perceptions. Because things will just carry on until they mould over to a full divine existence, which is one that's fearless, no need, needless, lackless. There is nothing, everything is perfect, it's heaven. And if you fear this, you're right on the awareness, aren't you? Because you're coming up to the gates of change, yeah, and the gates and the fire of change. These gates and the fire, you're getting closer to open the gates and go in the fire. And as you get closer to the gates, it gets more and more intense, and the fear rises and rises and rises until you just surrender and give in and say, whatever, because I am. As you are also. Yeah? So, there we go. Those three things. Questions, comments, whatever. Hope you're well. Love all round beans because it's free.